Well, let me say good afternoon from Liberia. Wherever you are following this broadcast, this is African Actions Network. If you are a diaspora Liberian or a diaspora follower, let me say good morning, good evening, wherever you find yourself across this global village. Let me say welcome to Inside Liberia. Today is Thursday, as a matter of fact. Today happens to be the second presentation of this week. Inside Liberia comes on twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays, and it's good to be on this afternoon from Liberia and coming to you live from Buchanan City specifically. And Buchanan City happens to be the nation's second capital, and it's good to be here on a Sunday, Thursday afternoon, talking about some training issues about Liberia and the rest of our global world. As a matter of fact, you may be informed at about now that is much talk about 2022 Qatar World Cup is over. And so congratulations to Argentina for winning on. Morocco made Africa proud by being the first country or African nation to qualify for semi-finals. They received a rousing welcome home, and it was a colorful event. It has ended. But in Liberia, we also have our biggest sporting festival now, and that is the National County Sports Meet. It has been named and styled the biggest reconciliatory event in the entire country. So it is underway. Some teams have qualified already for the quarterfinals, and that will be at the famous at Samuel Kayando Sports Complex in Painesville City, a suburb of Monrovia. And on yesterday in Buchanan City, we saw the Riversets. They qualified with 6 points for now, beating Grand Chile County. And also on yesterday, a controversial win for Grand Bassa County over Grand Mount, 2-1 in favor of Grand Bassa County. On yesterday in Central Liberia, Bon County also defeated Sano County 2-1. Same applies to Magi. Magi also County 2-1. Nima County is also set to attend the quarterfinals, winning 6 points on yesterday. And so it's a very colorful event, and we expect more exhibition of talents. And next year, whilst they have one more game remaining to play each to qualify them to reach the famous Samuel Kayando Sports Complex. But as it stands, River says it's still a grand lineup was not a good sign for Nima in this year's National County Sports Meet. And Bassa is also struggling to find her way out. That's County, but it was a controversial win on yesterday. So let me say welcome to all of you, and many thanks to Patience Blade Ato, who is actually streaming this broadcast live from Pennsylvania, USA, United States of America. And a lot of issues have been unfolding over the weekend in Liberia. Unfortunately, some technical issues, we couldn't have brought you our first edition of this week on Monday. But all of those training issues over the weekend will be discussed on this last presentation for this week. And our next presentation will be on the official observance of the Christmas Day in Liberia. That will be on next Monday. And so as it stands, all of the training happenings over the weekend will be highlighted on this platform today, beginning with the much talk about and publicized Retire Suffering Rally. 2A Radio TV brought you play description of happenings at the Samuel Kayando Sports Complex in Painesville on last Friday. And as a matter of fact, you may be aware by now that this much talk about rally was publicized. A lot of politicians from the opposition standpoint made strong statements. There were a lot of commitment to Liberians that claim they are suffering, that they will change the dynamics upon being elected as the country's next leaders to steer the affairs of Liberia during the next year October elections. But as much as possible, there were a lot of observations we had whilst covering the entire talking rally over last weekend. and we saw Liberians converging in huge number. There were multitudes, but there were some postures that in no way justify that you are tired suffering. There were folks that were sipping on their Guinness, drinking club beer, and dancing. And such a scene to any one rational person that you are tired suffering. And so I think we should have been more focused as Liberians. True essence of conversion is not about coming and having an assembly, but it's about having a true of what you assemble for. And so again, I had some the act, and those persons believed to be tired suffering. But strong made the campaign of suffering rally. Former Liberian diplomat Louis spoke plenty, and he informed Liberians there were some Liberians that expressed the entire suffering. The speaker of the disenchanted seditions that were believed to be lead campaigners of we are not being elected. They've also expressed dissatisfaction as relates to the government system. We heard statements from the leader of Liberia to express dissatisfaction because there are many officials of government that prefer getting their weapons out of the country than promoting Liberian tailor. He was calling on opposition leaders to see the need to promote made in Liberia products, particularly fabrics. And also from the grassroots pastors, there was a strong statement as well. And so we look at all of the statements, but I think we need more.
You take it from Peter today, Paul will take it from you tomorrow, mama. Sweet, sweet, living is sweet.
The cassava leaf is not for gold alone, and that was one of the songs sung by Basel citizens on yesterday when we were in Jubilee Wood defeating Grand Cape Mount County. And so we just thought to bring that in, talking about the retired suffering rallies. So I think if we are having such gatherings, we should be more purposeful, and the gathering should be resemblance of the slogan that we use, that we are tired suffering. You can't be drinking beer, drinking stout, you're having joyful time, and you say you are tired suffering. It's only an express sign that you are wanting to probably make those that are really suffering to feel more disenchanted. So we should be more purposeful when we are having such assemblies. And so moving forward, following that much talk about tired suffering rally, the president did arrive in Liberia after 2 months overstay from the country. And he arrived directly attending the Thanksgiving service held at the Dominion Christian Fellowship headquarters along the Tottenham Boulevard, right after the Catholic Junction. That church is headed by Bishop Ashley Winker. And following that Thanksgiving service, there were war of wars between other folks that believed that the president went in that service to throw hints at them. And so following that service, the district and representative from Montserrat County, Honorable Yakia Koluba, came out debunking the statement by the president. Why should the president refer to him as a psychopath? And so it was a little war of words. as much as possible, the president is back in Liberia. And there have been a lot of occasions, though he was frank with Liberians that the cash didn't come with him or the cash didn't accompany him, but as much as possible, he was able to catalog some of the expected amounts to be received by Liberia from those countries he traveled along with his entourage. We talk about the Menekama, Banka Menekama Highway, the road that links Banka, Central Liberia, or Lofa County, Vonchima City specifically, which happens to be where and the second phase of that road project will be funded by the Qatar government. A lot of other promises these promises come to us because numerous of occasions we've been able to hear sweet statements and enticing promises, but we are hoping that these promises meet fruition. But many Nigerians, some disappointed. They expect the president to come and start to embark on key projects that he went out to lobby for. But unfortunately, we are hearing that those monies that were lobbied for will follow. And so that alone has Liberians feeling disappointed. But I hope that all goes well. More events around the president, looking at lighting the Christmas tree that was on yesterday at the executive seat of the presidency. It was a very colorful event. Again, the president made a very strong statement calling on Liberians to celebrate the festive season peacefully, to not be carried away by critics. I think that was a direct bullet to opposition, the leaders in this country. But we all know that Liberians love to enjoy the festive season peaceably, unlike 1989, where on the 24th day of December was a time we had the insurgents of rebels in this country. And so we always love to have a peaceable celebration. And as much as possible, the festive season is a period set aside in Liberia where we share gifts out to family members. And we always love to have vacations. Some people move in rural areas to get the sweet taste of nature. And so we are hoping that will all go well as we look forward. 3 days from now will be Christmas Day, but by proclamation, the President of the Republic of Liberia has proclaimed that the official Christmas celebration be on Monday. That will be on the 26th day of December, because Sunday is a day of worship. And so against that backdrop, the Christmas, as per the President's proclamation, will be officially observed on Monday of next week. And so a lot more to talk about. I will talk about this next issue. You may recall that on the 2nd day of December, Inside Liberia play host to the former Election Commission boss, James Framoya, and he was one of those campaigners calling for the immediate resignation of the NEC boss, Madam TV Eto Brown Lastana. And we tend to dive into that deeper this afternoon on the platform Inside Liberia. As much as possible, let us run through the happenings of the president since his arrival. Just on today, the 09th recruit of the Armed Forces of Liberia graduated, and we were informed reliably that 176 persons graduated. Amongst that number, 50 of them were female and 126 were males. And today they graduated at the Barclays Training Center, where the president recommitted his government's tireless efforts in showing that they will do everything they can to ensure that they have a very strong, powerful, relentless, and gallant military. You may recall that on February 11th of this year, during the official observance of Armed Forces Day, the president of the Republic of Liberia did informed Liberians that he wanted additional 1,000 men to join the current force of the Armed Forces of Liberia. And Against that backdrop, the first 196 persons were recruited. 20 more of them are still undergoing training, but they were in attendance at the ceremony on today, whilst the remaining of them are expected to join hands with the other folks that have already completed their training to make up the armed forces of Liberia. And he reiterated his government's to show that military personnel are taken care of. Right? He did mention his commitment during his inception in office as Liberia's president for the construction of a 14 military hospital. And today it is functional. And he called that a dream country. And we are all hoping that many of the other commitments made by the president or the government of Liberia are met. But don't forget, however, that 5 years over now, and in the not 2 days in the future will be election. So can all of these commitments made by this government be met? These are some of the hard questions. And moving forward, just only yesterday, this is one of the key issues I want us to talk about. So you can continuously share the broadcast, leave your comments as well. But it is a tricky issue that we tend to talk about because there are 4 things in any country in the world that can stand civil unrest. You see, land matter. Whenever there is a land matter, it has the proclivity of leading a country into civil unrest. Today, many parts of the world where you find civil unrest, where you find revolutions, where you find war, some of those wars are attributed to land matter. And you cannot Welcome back. Welcome back. This is in Liberia, African Network 2, streaming to you live from Festive, USA. My name is Garnet, and we've been highlighting training issues in Liberia, and we've cataloged one to be our focus of discussion this afternoon. And I was just informing you that there are 4 things that cause civil unrest in any country. First is land matter. The second is religious matter. We found one religious or one religion rising against another. So religious matter is a very serious issue that we should not overlook. If just land matter, it may drive a country into intensified danger leading to civil unrest. If you cannot settle relations, it will lead your country into civil unrest. The next thing we have to be very careful about has to do with election matter. This is one of the issues that lead many African countries into civil unrest. Today, we saw what happened in Guinea. That went for and he was also for a few months after being doctored. We see what is happening. We saw what happened in Sierra Leone, and we witnessed what happened right in Liberia. So we do not play with election matter, because that is inherent and inalienable right that citizens of every country has to change their leaders for their country. So if they are waited patiently for this change, and like I heard the president of Liberia say, if you want to change your government, go to the ballot box. a good one. But the Bible is one aspect of having a transition. But ensuring that the referee pays or handles this game fairly, transparently, and peaceably is far more important. Now, on the 2nd of December, I sat in front of the former election commission boss, James Famonia, and he outlined several reasons why Liberia should not depend on the current net boss to lead the country in the ensuing elections. He cataloged several reasons, citing several instances as well. Following that, just on yesterday, 19 days after, one of the opposition leaders, the leader of the Liberia's People Party, Councillor Tiawon Gonglu, former Labour Minister, Republic of Liberia, former Solicitor General, Republic of Liberia, former President, Liberia National Bar Association, now turned politician, has come up petitioning the legislature to call on the president to ensure that the NDC boss resigns, dismissed. Now, this is a very serious matter. It's a very serious matter because I can recall during the time of Jerome Kokoya, we heard similar calls coming from opposition political parties. But what is making this call far more interesting and to be looked at critically is the fact that even the former election commission boss is now raising eyebrows that he will not trust the process except the current boss decides to work with expertise that can guide Liberia through this transitional period. And I always say to Liberians, look, there are certain positions. There are positions in the country. And those positions should not be handled politically. They should be handled meritoriously. Those positions should be based on merit and not based on politics. We all witnessed what happened in Liberia during this much talk about national population and housing census. We all saw what happened. It shows that there are certain positions in government that should not be driven by political affiliations. It should be heavily incumbent upon expertise, folks that are knowledgeable about what they are appointed to do and what should be done right. Not all positions should be based on politicking, because this person is not a partisan, or this person is not close or a bear with the party to be or the ruling establishment, then obviously that person is not qualified to occupy certain positions in Liberia. We should change that mindset. It is a wrong way of thinking. Not every position in government should be based on politics. You should not politicize every position in government. That's why I always say to folks that quality is more important in politics than multitude of words. If you are holding certain positions in government, though said position was given to you by a politician, because the president has that constitutional right to make appointments in government. But mind you, once you are being appointed by the president and subsequently confirmed by the Liberian Senate, you have taken an oath of solemn or affirmation to protect the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia. And that is a commitment not to any one person that appointed you, but a commitment to public service, a commitment to the people of the Republic of Liberia, and these people remain your employer. So we must respect that. We must, at every given point in time, respect that. And so now, Councillor Tewon Gonklo is in the news. We just heard a press conference yesterday that the NEC boss should resign. But calling for this resignation is timely, it's workable. Do we see a dark cloud hanging over the ensuing election if many of these requests for their boss to resign or not away? Do we see a dark cloud hanging over the election? And so these are some of the questions we tend to ask. But we always say to our friends that Liberia is above every one person. There should be reasonable justifications for any one person calling on the next boss to resign. If this is not timely, or if it's timely, are there recommendations? Are there recommendations? But as we know, we have to apologize. The fluctuation in the network. We will try everything. And so welcome back again. We apologize for the breach in transmission, but it is due to the fluctuation in the network. But let's continue from where we stopped. As I said earlier on, there should be reasonable justifications as it relates to calling for the next boss to resign. And in my honest opinion, whilst we listen to some of those reasonable justifications, we should also understand that there will never be a day in Liberia that an angel from heaven will come from above to serve as an election commission boss. There is no day in Liberia, never will we see that a non-Liberian will just come from another country to steer the affairs of our election in this country. Never also will we see a scientist from somewhere far that will just drop from the blue sky to become an election commission boss in this country. It will always be a Liberian. And so if we know that it will always be a Liberian, we should also understand that there is no human by nature that is faultless. There is no one that is scorecard will just be 100%. But I think honestly, it's better we settle for the lesser evil. Meaning, if this person is manageable, let's manage them. If this person can listen to recommendations, reasonable ones though, that can make everyone opposing parties to repose explicit confidence in the electoral process, let's work with that person. But if we try every reasonable means, we try all of the diplomatic means to ensure that AU, we have to call you to book, because what you are doing is not in the best interest of Liberia. What you are doing has the propensity to see this country return to her dark days. What you are doing will bring a situation that will become uncontrollable. What you are doing is now workable for the electoral process. If we have made all of the calls and to no avail, we can use the same diplomatic means to call on the president or to call on the NEC policy. Look, hey, this thing is far beyond your reach. You cannot make it. So best thing we can do is to find an alternative, or can you just leave the driving seat and let's find someone else that is prepared and willing to see Liberia move through a peaceful, transparent, and fair elections comes 2023. Now, have there been some reasonable explanations for why the NEC board should resign? Oh yes, there have been some reasonable explanations. This issue of bypassing the PPCC, the Public Procurement Concession Commission, to just give projects out wherein a perfect bidding process is not accorded. Those companies that will want to express interest in winning contracts on government, then there is a problem. If we find you unilaterally taking a decision to give power based on nepotism to family members without passing through the referral procedures, oh yes, then that's a problem. If the UNDP and the NEC jointly had a symposium wherein it was recommended that you find technical experts to sit beside the NEC and ensure that the electoral process is carried on peaceably, and you refuse to listen to those recommendations, then that is a problem. If we are telling you overly that one of the major reasons why the late Councillor Charles Walker Bromskin, former leader of the Liberty Party and the founder as well, when running upstairs to the Supreme Court because of voter rule, and you refused to hire a professional data clerk officer to sit beside you and guide you through the process, then that is also a problem. So there are reasonable justifications why some of these key actors are calling on the NEC boss to resign. And you cannot be adamant to some of these calls. As a public servant, you are subjected at every point in time to listen to the cries of the people. That will in no way sway your words, but it will also put you on path. You cannot at every time ignore criticism. No, you just can't. You cannot not in every point in time ignore criticism. Criticism is part of leadership. The criticism redirects your focus if you are missing tracks. So there are reasonable explanations from folks that are calling for the resignation of the NEC boss. So all we need to do here, Madam David Elton Brown Lasana, you need to listen. You are subjected to listening to every side because you are the referee. You are playing the role of a twin mother. And so make sure every point in time, every side is satisfied. Look, at times, some of these things may not be your doing. Probably and professionally, as a media veteran, I'm speaking to the NEC boss. She worked in the media landscape of Liberia for a number of years. So as a media veteran, you may be doing these things under the curtains because that's your job. No one may easily dictate to you, because if it starts now, tomorrow it may continue. It may lead to a very bad electoral process. So professionally, you may be using your own tactics to go about this. But at times, call them for a conference. When some of these issues are raised, invite them for a conference. You guys talk about this and say, look, what you are saying, I understand that we had this meeting with the UNDP and we arrived at this, but this is workable, but it takes time. So you have to give us some time, please, to ensure that this thing is workable. One of the reasons now they are calling on the NEC boss to resign is because if the voter registration does not kickstart, in January of next year, it will also be a constitutional breach. But also, on the other hand, can you blame the NEC boss if voter registration does not start early next year, January, when you just have census, and it should supposedly end January 15, and we are expecting to get findings subject to data and statistics to tell us how many Liberians are in this country and how many eligible voters we do have. So the NEC cannot in any way jump over that. We saw this constitutional breach long since. That's why we overly called on the government of Liberia to ensure that fundings be provided for a peaceful and speedy conduct of the national population and housing census. That delay caused this danger today that we are engulfed with. And so we have to look up to them to see what will be fruitful. One of the reasons that the former NEC boss, Honorable James Famoyan, raised was the fact that if you are using a biometric process, it will take long because the company that is to help with this process is given a period of 100 days. In 100 days can in no way be January, it can in no way be February, because the NEC boss just officially announced that the biometric process is well on course. So from that pronouncement, we should be counting 100 days that the company has given surety that what we want will be provided. Mind you, there are also technical hitches along the way that we cannot underestimate because those things are inevitable. They can happen. And so these are amongst reasons why some of these costs should be looked at critically. But I think, honestly, the government of Liberia, through the NEC, because the NEC now is a referee, let the NEC call some of these political parties, key opposition leaders, the ruling establishment, let them have a meeting. Because all of these calls that are coming up, they are dangerous calls that could find people abandoning the process, that could find people storming NEC office like they did during the District 15 election. So we have to be very careful. So NEC boss, you have a tax on your head that we know. It become heavier by the day as the time draws closer. So it's important that we do not overlook some of these dissatisfactions, to overlook some of these talks from the opposition political leaders. We should address some of these issues because we want to maintain peace in Liberia. So it is important. And as I said earlier on, relations issue, land issue, tribal matter, and election matter. Those four things cause civil unrest in any country. So we must be careful in handling election matter. We must be careful in handling tribal matter. We must be careful in handling land matter. And we must be careful in handling relations matter, particularly as a nation that went through 14 years of civil unrest. Liberians will not in any way be willing to return to the dark days. I have seen this expression in the faces of Liberians from the inception of the early Johnson government to the peaceful transition that eventually gave birth to the CDC government headed by His Excellency Dr. George Maniwia. All through this government, 5 years in power, we've seen Liberians being assembling peaceably to petition their leaders, and with that express view that they are not prepared to go back to the dark days. So we should respectably honor some of these calls by Liberians as a government. And we must do that responsibly. Because if one opposition leader speaks, every one person in government wants to respond. That's why I was asking the question the last time as to how many officials of government want to be information minister. And when we say these things, people take them lightly. But just a couple of days ago, the information minister complained about this, that everyone wants to be information minister, which is wrong. So one opposition leader speaks, every one person in government wants to respond. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. So it is incumbent upon all of us to maintain this peace that we are enjoying today. If we want Liberia to develop, it cannot be done in the absence of peace. If we want Liberia to have a very good investment climate, it cannot be done in the absence of political stability. If we want to see Liberia progressing on path with other developing countries, it cannot be done in the absence of peace. But while we have peace, it is also important as a government to ensure that citizens are empowered, to ensure that civil servants are paid in time, to ensure that people stop complaining about not getting their salaries and just benefits in time. If we want Liberia to progress and be on par with other developing countries, the legislature, and that is where I will conclude, because the legislature remains the first branch of government. The legislature has a pivotal role to play. Today, there are hullabaloo's folks from all walks of the country calling for the resignation of the neck boss. It falls on your head, members of the legislature. You have that exclusive right to, at every point in time, summon and an appointed official in government to answer to Liberian people. That's why when Liberians are in the street in the name of assembling or having rallies or protesting, I always feel sad, because when you cannot take care of the home and you cannot provide those basic needs for the kids, you will find them jumping in their neighbors' compounds. When the kids feel abandoned, they go out to find comfort somewhere. When Liberians are in the streets every day assembling, it shows that you legislators have a serious problem, because you have overly refused to address some of these burning issues that are affecting Liberians. So they vent their anger out there by saying, look, let's just go on the street and stand for a couple of hours. Let them know that no one can talk for us anymore. Let them know that we are suffering and we are tired, because those we elected to represent us, to serve as direct representatives, to serve as senators, they are not working our interests anymore. They only care about themselves. Let me just say this. I saw some legislators that are so vocal. When they talk, you will call them Liberia's messiahs. Go in their separate offices at the building. There are people that they pick from the streets that only sign for salaries, and they get their cuts and they give them the rest. Many of them are surviving that way. That is their life, and that is how they chose to govern you, that elected them, which is wrong. But when they come out to talk as though they are the only things in the country, but they are wicked to people that work for them in their offices. But election is coming. Many of these things will emerge. Because let me say this, anyone that wants to preach equity must come with clean hands. Many of our legislators, they are wicked to those constituents and to those that even decide to serve them in their separate offices. They take those monies and have deep cuts and give them the rest. In the name that they are paying people that work in their offices. It's not true. We got the records, and those records will be uncovered. So they should stop coming here and shouting and inciting Liberians to abandon their activities, because Liberians have to sell in the street at peddlers before they survive. Can you imagine as a 52-year man and a tour as we approach this festive season in separate commercial hubs of this country? a 52-year-old man I interacted with. And do you know what I was to survive? He sells plastic bags. He puts and rubber band that look, it is so disheartening. Look, I saw that old man, tears nearly dropped down my cheeks. A man of that age that has serious responsibility, but in certain market that they value the goods can amount to 2,000 Liberian dollars. He had to ask himself how much that can he sell before buying a cup of rice, showing a education, before talking about shelter, to talk about education. These parents are suffering because sit in the street, you have them their salaries, and you have those salaries and give them the rest. But yes, when you talk like a Messiah, but you are wicked and you are not sinned. So the legislators, look, Liberians, let me say to you, you have a chance again 2023. Some of them are like in Liberia. When they say agricultural break, they are in America. You even see them around. When you on various top shows in Liberia, you name your district, elected districts. Some of you, since you elected those legislators, you cannot even say them. I know how much it pains or make the right decision at the ballot box. That is where you will catch your blank check. But we got a problem. Instead of us sitting on a table where we share ideas to move like our districts or counties for, we prefer sitting on a table or balcony where we exchange votes for cash. We do not have interest in anything that people will do. All we are interested in is what we can grab now, which is wrong. We need to change the mindset. We need to vote leaders that will sit in the office and say, yes, I do not merit this, but the people entrusted me. But you want them to give you cash, buy you t-shirts, cook rice, dollar rice for your eat. And
You take it from Peter today, Paul will take it from you tomorrow, mama. Sweet, sweet, living is sweet, oh, whether rich or poor. Why not pray for a long fellow? He can pray for a long life. As long as they live, you know, the better we grow.
And so, welcome back to conclude. And you know, Professor John Dupont has said it all. Sweet Kasawali is not for good alone. If you take it from Peter today, Paul will indeed take it from you tomorrow. So know that the position you have today, someone else will take that position tomorrow. So thanks to all of you for following the broadcast. Those that shared this afternoon, let me say thanks to you. Your comments, suggestions, your questions have all been sent out. And many thanks to all of you for always following African Actions Network, particularly inside Liberia, with your usual hosts, Anthony James and Jason. My name is Eta Yubi Kanet. I have been anchoring this Thursday's presentation. The next time you hear us on this platform will be on Monday. That will be the official celebration day of Christmas for 2022 in Liberia. So please, everyone Liberian needs to stand up and help in making Liberia a better place. And just before I leave you, First Clothing will be officially launched in Liberia next year. And so whenever you see the advert, just know that First Clothing International will be launched in Liberia next year. So until Monday, my name is Yubi Garnett. Many thanks to Patience Blay Atto for handling the technical aspects of this presentation. For all of us from African Actions Network, let me say many thanks for watching. Do have yourself a wonderful weekend, Merry Christmas, and a prosperous New Year.